couldn't be better off in any other place, there shouldn't be so much whining and bellyaching.
John Wayne died on June 11, 1979 in Los Angeles at the age of 72, closing the chapter on one of Hollywood's most legendary careers. To millions, he was more than a movie star. He was the Duke, the face of rugged masculinity and old-fashioned American heroism. With his slow drawl, towering presence, and steady glare, he transformed Westerns into American mythology. But behind the cowboy hat and larger-than-life image stood a father whose legacy reached far beyond the screen. Among John Wayne's 7 children, Patrick Wayne became the one most closely tied to his father's fame. Born in 1939, just after Stagecoach made John Wayne a star, Patrick grew up surrounded by film sets, cameras, and the constant weight of expectation. Nicknamed Little Duke, he spent his childhood watching his father command Hollywood from behind the scenes. By the age of 12, Patrick already understood the burden attached to the Wayne name. His father once told him, "When people see you, they'll think of me. Make it worth it."
I'm sad to see minorities make so much of themselves as a hyphenated American.
It was less advice than a challenge that shaped his future. Patrick followed his father into acting and appeared in more than 40 films, including several alongside John Wayne. Audiences saw him in classics like The Searchers, McClintock, and Big Jake, often playing honorable, clean-cut characters that echoed his father's screen image. With his square jaw and calm confidence, Patrick looked every bit the Hollywood leading man. In 1977, he landed the starring role in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, a major opportunity to prove himself outside his father's shadow. But the film failed with critics and audiences alike. From that point on, Patrick struggled to escape comparisons to the legend who came before him. His career continued in television and smaller projects, but superstardom never arrived. Even so, Patrick remained the most visible of John Wayne's children. At tributes, Western festivals, and memorial events, he carried the Wayne legacy with quiet dignity. He may never have surpassed the shadow cast by his father, but no one stood inside it longer. The 6th of John Wayne's 7 children was Ethan Wayne. Unlike his older siblings, who grew up while their father was still fighting for stardom, Ethan was born in 1962 when the Duke had already become an American icon. John Wayne was no longer just a movie star. He was a living symbol of strength, patriotism, and old Hollywood masculinity. By the time Ethan was old enough to remember his father clearly, much of their life revolved around the Wild Goose, John Wayne's famous private yacht. Far from movie sets and studio lights, Ethan spent his childhood at sea along the California coast. There, his father taught him practical lessons instead of Hollywood ambition. He learned how to tie knots, throw ropes, and keep calm when the waters turned rough. One lesson stayed with him for life.
Opening doors and tipping your hat to ladies is probably a thing of the past.
You don't always have to win, John once told him. You just need to keep the ship steady. Unlike some of his siblings, Ethan never rushed into the spotlight. Though his last name could have opened nearly any door in Hollywood, he chose to work quietly behind the scenes as a stuntman, learning the industry from the ground up. But as the years passed and John Wayne's image shifted from movie star to cultural legend, Ethan found a different purpose. He became the protector of the Wayne legacy. As head of John Wayne Enterprises and the John Wayne Cancer Foundation, Ethan dedicated himself to preserving his father's name and image. His defining moment came in 2011 during a legal fight over ownership of the John Wayne trademark. In the middle of the courtroom battle, Ethan arrived carrying something deeply personal, the small urn containing his father's ashes. Resting beside his legal papers, it sent a message stronger than words ever could. This wasn't just business, it was family. Today, Ethan rarely seeks attention for himself, yet his influence is everywhere the Wayne name survives. From charity events to museum exhibits, he became the quiet steward of a legend larger than life. He never tried to replace his father. Instead, he made sure the world would never forget him. The fifth child of John Wayne's 7 children was Aisa Wayne, and in many ways, she became the most outspoken of them all. Born in 1956 at the height of her father's fame, Aisa entered a completely different world from some of her older siblings. By then, John Wayne wasn't struggling for success. He was Hollywood royalty. She grew up surrounded by Newport Beach mansions, movie premieres, security guards, and endless reminders that her father belonged not just to his family, but to America itself.
Kowtowing to minorities where they can get votes. And I think it's bad for...
John Wayne's voice, image, and reputation echoed through every part of her childhood. She didn't simply watch the legend from afar. She lived inside it every day. There were no ordinary bedtime stories in Aisa Wayne's childhood. Instead, there were scripts being rehearsed in the hallway, movie dialogue echoing through the house, and award show appearances where her father towered beside her like a living monument. Growing up as John Wayne's daughter meant living inside a world larger than life. But despite the glamour and public attention, Aisa longed for something far more personal. Her favorite memory of her father had nothing to do with Hollywood. It was a simple cassette tape John Wayne recorded while away filming. On it, he softly whistled a lullaby so she could listen to it before bed. Aisa kept the tape hidden in a drawer for years, treating it like a private piece of the father few people ever saw. That contrast between the public legend and the gentle man at home would shape how she viewed him for the rest of her life. As she grew older, Aisa realized she had no interest in becoming an actress. She didn't want to spend her life playing another version of the Wayne image on screen. Instead, she chose law. After graduating from Pepperdine University, she became an attorney and worked to build a career separate from Hollywood. While some of her brothers embraced the entertainment industry or protected the family brand, Aisa tried to carve out her own identity in courtrooms and public service. Still, escaping the Wayne name proved impossible. No matter where she went, people saw John Wayne's daughter before they saw her. Sometimes the name opened doors. Other times it created impossible expectations. In 1991, she leaned into that connection by publishing John Wayne, My Father, a memoir that revealed a far more personal side of the American icon. The book described a man who could be warm, stubborn, loving, distant, patriotic, and deeply flawed all at once.
A country should feel terribly guilty about anything because they have had a better life here and their fathers and mothers than they would have had anyplace else.
Aisa didn't try to present her father as perfect. Instead, she showed readers the complicated human being behind the cowboy legend. The memoir became successful and earned praise for its honesty, but it also pulled her even deeper into the public conversation surrounding her father's legacy. Years later came the defining turning point of her public life. In 2016, Aisa launched a campaign to become a judge in Los Angeles County. She campaigned on her legal experience and commitment to justice, hoping voters would judge her on her own accomplishments. But the media focused almost entirely on her last name. Headlines didn't talk about attorney Aisa Wayne. They talked about John Wayne's daughter entering politics. As the campaign intensified, controversy followed. Critics revisited old interviews given by John Wayne decades earlier, particularly a widely criticized 1971 Playboy interview containing comments many viewed as offensive by modern standards. Suddenly, Aisa found herself defending not only her campaign, but her father's reputation as well. She tried to separate herself from the controversy with calm determination. "I'm proud to be my father's daughter," she said, "but I'm not running on his record. I'm running on mine." But the debate only grew louder. Opinion pieces attacked her. Social media exploded with arguments over whether the Wayne name represented American tradition or outdated values. When election night finally arrived, Aisa lost. The defeat was narrow but symbolic. It showed that the Wayne name no longer carried the unquestioned admiration it once had. For many observers, the loss marked the end of her political ambitions, but Aisa refused to disappear quietly. In the years since, she has become one of the strongest public defenders of her father's legacy. Whenever debates emerge about removing John Wayne's name from public buildings or criticizing his place in American culture, Aisa is often the first family member to speak out. Her responses are rarely cautious or diplomatic. Instead, she confronts criticism head-on. "He was a man of his time, not a man without flaws," she once said during a televised interview. "But if we erase every person from history who spoke imperfectly, eventually we'll have no one left to learn from." The statement sparked fierce debate, just as many of her comments do. But Aisa has never seemed interested in avoiding controversy. Unlike the quieter members of the Wayne family, she chose to stand directly in the middle of the cultural battle surrounding her father's memory. Today, Aisa Wayne remains one of the most complicated figures in the Wayne family story. She is neither the silent protector nor the Hollywood heir chasing fame. She is the daughter willing to speak when silence would be easier, defending a legacy that continues to divide audiences decades after John Wayne's death. Aisa Wayne became the daughter who chose law over Hollywood, only to discover she could never fully escape the legacy tied to her last name. Every courtroom, campaign stage, and television interview carried the same invisible pressure. The Wayne name could open doors, but it could just as easily turn public opinion against her. Still, she never tried to run from it. She carried the burden openly, even when it threatened to overwhelm her. The first of John Wayne's 7 children was Michael Wayne, and his childhood looked very different from the lives his younger siblings would later experience. Born in 1934, Michael arrived before John Wayne became a Hollywood giant. At the time, the future Duke was still known as Marion Morrison, a struggling actor fighting through low-budget westerns and uncertain paychecks. Michael did not grow up surrounded by fame or luxury. He grew up watching his father leave home before dawn and return exhausted from dusty film locations, carrying the stress of a career that had not yet succeeded. To Michael, John Wayne was not initially a legend. He was simply a hard-working father trying to survive in a brutal industry. That image stayed with him for the rest of his life. Perhaps that is why Michael never wanted to become an actor himself. Unlike some of his siblings, he felt little attraction to the spotlight. Instead of performing in front of the camera, Michael became fascinated with how films were built behind the scenes. He studied business and film production at Loyola University and quickly developed an interest in the machinery of Hollywood itself. While others admired movie stars, Michael studied contracts, schedules, budgets, and production logistics. John Wayne noticed his son's sharp instincts early on. During the filming of The Alamo in 1960, John gave Michael a major responsibility, overseeing important production operations. It was more than a simple task. It was a test of trust. Michael succeeded, and from that moment forward, father and son formed a different kind of partnership. Not actor and heir, but builder and strategist. Michael eventually took charge of Batjack Productions, John Wayne's independent film company, helping manage major films like McClintock, The Green Berets, and Chisholm. But his work extended far beyond film sets. He negotiated deals, managed business operations, and carefully expanded the Wayne brand behind closed doors. While audiences saw John Wayne riding horses across movie screens, Michael was constructing the business empire that kept the legend alive. Then came the role no one could fully prepare for. After John Wayne's death in 1979, Michael became one of the primary caretakers of his father's legacy. He helped establish the legal protections surrounding the John Wayne name and laid important groundwork for what would later become the John Wayne Cancer Foundation. His mission was clear: preserve not only the image of the Duke, but the meaning attached to it. Yet, protecting a legacy as large as John Wayne's came with enormous pressure. As the years passed, tensions within the family began to surface over trademarks, assets, and control of the Wayne estate. Michael believed centralized leadership was necessary to protect the family brand, but not everyone agreed. The work stopped feeling like business and started feeling like war. Then, in 1985, Michael faced a devastating personal challenge when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Ironically, the disease would later become central to the foundation connected to his father's name. Despite his declining health, Michael refused to slow down. He continued working long hours from a small office, determined to secure the future of the Wayne legacy while he still could. In one of his final interviews, Michael explained the purpose behind all his work. "People think we're preserving a statue," he said. "We're not. We're preserving a man with all the grit, flaws, and courage he stood for." That belief became the heart of his mission. Michael Wayne passed away in 2003, far less famous than the father whose legacy he spent his life protecting. To the general public, he was mostly unknown. He wasn't celebrated at film festivals or recognized as a Hollywood personality. Yet behind the scenes, his influence was everywhere. Every licensed John Wayne product, every museum exhibit, and every carefully preserved piece of the Duke's image carried Michael's quiet fingerprints. He became the son who inherited not the spotlight, but the responsibility that came with it. While others remembered John Wayne as a larger-than-life hero, Michael worked to make sure the real man behind the myth would never disappear beneath nostalgia. The seventh and youngest of John Wayne's children was Marissa Wayne. By the time she was born in 1966, her father was no longer building his reputation. He had already become an American institution. But the version of John Wayne Marissa knew was very different from the fearless cowboy audiences watched in True Grit or The Searchers. To her, he was an aging father sitting in a leather chair in their Newport Beach home, quietly flipping between news broadcasts and old Western reruns where he watched himself in silence. She did not grow up surrounded by movie sets or Hollywood excitement. Instead, her childhood unfolded in a calmer world filled with ocean air, cigar smoke, and the growing awareness that her father's health was fading. Marissa never truly knew the unstoppable John Wayne of Hollywood legend. She knew the older man weakened by surgeries and cancer treatments, yet still commanding every room he entered. Behind closed doors, he seemed less concerned with preserving his image and more focused on making sure his children remembered the man behind it. As the youngest child, Marissa was often protected from the pressures her older siblings faced. But even in his later years, John Wayne remained firm in his beliefs about strength and resilience. One lesson stayed with her throughout her life. You don't cry to get your way. You look people in the eye and make your way. John Wayne died when Marissa was only 13 years old, but his influence followed her into adulthood. Unlike some of her siblings, she never pursued acting or immediately stepped into the family business. Instead, she built a quieter life centered around sports, family, and eventually public advocacy. Over time, Marissa began to understand that carrying the Wayne name meant more than preserving old memories. It meant defending a legacy in a world that viewed her father very differently than previous generations had. While her siblings protected the Wayne legacy through business, law, and film history, Marissa found herself pulled into the growing cultural debate surrounding John Wayne's reputation. That conflict reached a major turning point in 2020 when nationwide protests and political debates reignited scrutiny over controversial statements John Wayne had made decades earlier. Soon, activists in Orange County began petitioning to remove John Wayne's name from the airport that had carried it for years. The controversy surrounding John Wayne centered heavily on his 1971 Playboy interview, where he made remarks many people later viewed as racially insensitive and politically divisive. Critics argued that those comments no longer reflected modern American values and questioned whether his name should continue to represent public institutions like Orange County's John Wayne Airport. For years, Marissa Wayne had remained one of the quieter members of the family. But when her father's reputation came under attack, she suddenly became one of its strongest public defenders. She appeared in interviews, wrote opinion pieces, and spoke openly about the complicated reality of preserving her father's legacy in a changing culture. Marissa never tried to defend every statement John Wayne had ever made. Instead, she argued that history should be understood in context, not erased entirely. "You can't judge a man from the past using today's lens," she said during one interview. "If we erase history, we erase the lessons that come with it." Her comments immediately sparked backlash. Social media exploded with criticism, while television debates questioned whether the Wayne family was refusing to accept uncomfortable truths about the past. But Marissa refused to back away. During a tense town hall meeting in Orange County, she stood before a crowd holding her father's military burial flag. Though emotional, her voice remained steady as she defended the man she knew personally, not just the cultural symbol the public debated. He loved this country, inspired millions, and devoted himself to his family, she said. If that's not worth remembering, then what is? That moment transformed Marissa into one of the most emotionally powerful voices protecting John Wayne's image. Unlike some of her siblings, she was not focused on trademarks, legal strategy, or business operations. What she offered instead was something more intimate. She spoke about John Wayne as a father. In interviews, podcasts, and museum appearances, Marissa shared deeply personal memories the public had never seen before. She described him brushing her hair before school, joking quietly during his final hospital visits, and trying to comfort his children while battling illness. To fans, those stories revealed a side of John Wayne hidden beneath decades of cowboy mythology. Marissa became the family member who reminded audiences that behind the Western hero stood an aging man, frightened of being forgotten by the people he loved most. Within the larger Wayne family story, Marissa represents the emotional final chapter. Not because she was the youngest child, but because she carries the memory of her father through feeling rather than business or public image. She does not defend a corporation or a brand. She defends the man she remembers sitting beside her at home long after the cameras stopped rolling. The fourth child of John Wayne's 7 children was Melinda Wayne, one of the quietest yet most important figures in preserving the family legacy. Unlike some of her siblings, Melinda rarely appeared in headlines or public interviews, but those close to the family often described her as one of the most observant and grounded of them all. Born in 1940, Melinda entered the world just as John Wayne stood on the edge of major stardom. At the time, he was still working relentlessly through low-budget westerns while trying to establish himself as a leading man. Her mother, Josephine, worked hard to keep stability in the household, raising the children with discipline and strong Catholic values. Melinda's childhood existed between two very different worlds. She experienced both the modest years before massive success and the rapid rise of her father into one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Unlike her younger siblings, who grew up surrounded by wealth and fame, Melinda remembered the transition itself. People who knew her often said she noticed the small things others ignored. As a child, she watched her father carefully. She noticed how he lined his boots neatly by the door after returning home from filming. She noticed how quiet he became after shooting violent scenes. And she noticed how, even when he struggled to express emotion directly, he still found quiet ways to show love. One memory stayed with her for life. When Melinda was 8 years old, John Wayne gave her a small portable radio he had purchased during a film shoot in Texas. Handing it to her, he said, "Use this to listen to the world, not escape from it." The advice shaped how Melinda approached life from that moment forward. Unlike several members of the Wayne family, Melinda never pursued acting or public attention. She chose privacy instead, staying largely outside the Hollywood machine that surrounded her father's legacy. Yet, despite avoiding fame herself, she quietly became one of the steady presences helping preserve the family's history behind the scenes. Melinda Wayne built her life far from cameras and Hollywood attention. While the Wayne name became one of the most recognizable in America, she focused instead on family, faith, and a deep sense of personal responsibility. But after John Wayne's death in 1979, as disputes over his image and legacy began growing more intense, Melinda slowly stepped into a role no one officially gave her: protector of authenticity. While some of her siblings managed licensing deals and business operations, Melinda concentrated on something more personal. She wanted to make sure her father's image remained truthful. She reviewed contracts, challenged questionable projects, and advised legal teams on whether a film, product, or tribute genuinely reflected who John Wayne had been. Her understanding of her father went beyond emotion or nostalgia. She possessed an almost encyclopedic knowledge of his career, personality, and personal values. Her defining moment came in 1999 when a major advertising company attempted to digitally recreate John Wayne for a cigarette commercial. The ad presented him as a patriotic American symbol, and lawyers argued the campaign was legally protected. But to Melinda, the issue went far beyond legality. Her father had died from cancer. Outraged, she led the family's effort to challenge the campaign and ultimately forced the company to withdraw the advertisement. During a rare public appearance, Melinda stood before reporters holding a still image from the commercial and delivered a statement that immediately captured headlines. "My father died of cancer," she said calmly. "You don't get to make him sell the thing that killed him." The moment stunned many people because Melinda rarely spoke publicly. Yet her quiet conviction left a lasting impression. It became clear that she was not defending a celebrity brand. She was defending her father's dignity. Since then, Melinda has remained one of the most influential behind-the-scenes figures connected to the Wayne legacy. She seldom attends fan conventions or public celebrations, but when documentaries are produced, legal disputes emerge, or historical projects are reviewed, her opinion often carries enormous weight. She became the family member who asks difficult questions others sometimes overlook. Is the story accurate? Did John Wayne really say that? Would he have approved of this project? Those questions shaped her role within the family. In many ways, Melinda became the archivist of integrity within the Wayne dynasty. She understood that preserving a legend meant protecting the truth as much as the image itself. Before John Wayne became the Duke, he was simply a complicated man with strong beliefs, personal flaws, and moral lines he refused to cross. Melinda dedicated herself to making sure the public never forgot that distinction. She did not inherit fame. She inherited the responsibility of keeping the legacy honest. The second child of John Wayne's 7 children was Tony Wayne, one of the most private and mysterious members of the family. Born in 1936, Tony entered the world before John Wayne became a Hollywood giant. At that point, he was still Marion Morrison, a struggling actor working through small film roles and low-budget westerns while trying desperately to support his growing family. The Wayne household during those years was far removed from the wealth and prestige later associated with the name. The family moved between modest homes across Southern California, while John Wayne chased acting jobs that paid little and offered no guarantee of success. Tony's childhood reflected those uncertain years. There were no glamorous premieres or luxury estates yet. Instead, she grew up wearing hand-me-down dresses, attending Sunday Mass with her mother, and watching her father disappear for long stretches during film shoots. Unlike her younger siblings, who knew John Wayne as a powerful Hollywood icon, Tony knew him first as an ambitious man still trying to build a future. Tony Wayne was a daughter born before the legend existed. And as John Wayne transformed from struggling actor into one of Hollywood's biggest stars, she never tried to step into the spotlight beside him. From the family kitchen table, Tony watched her father's rise happen in real time. By the time she reached her teenage years, films like Red River had already turned John Wayne into a national icon. Slowly, the public image of the Duke began replacing the father she simply knew as Daddy. Unlike some of her brothers, Tony never tried to follow him into the movie business. And unlike several of her sisters, she showed little interest in becoming a public defender of the Wayne legacy later in life. Still, she remained close to the family and occasionally visited her father's film sets during her younger years. She even appeared briefly in two of his movies, The Quiet Man and The Alamo. Her roles were tiny, so small that most audiences never noticed her at all. But for Tony, those appearances were never about launching an acting career. They were quiet gestures of connection between father and daughter. Small moments where John Wayne tried to include his children in the world that increasingly consumed his life. As an adult, Tony deliberately chose a different path from the rest of the Wayne family. While others built careers tied to the Duke's image, Tony moved further away from public attention. She married, raised children, and embraced a private life far removed from Hollywood. There were no major interviews, public speeches, or efforts to capitalize on the Wayne name. In many ways, her silence became its own form of independence. Yet privacy did not fully protect her from the complicated realities of belonging to one of America's most famous families. After John Wayne's death in 1979, the family faced the difficult process of handling his estate and personal affairs. During that period, Tony quietly realized she had been largely left out of important financial decisions and distributions connected to her father's legacy. The situation never exploded into public scandal. There were no lawsuits, angry interviews, or dramatic confrontations. Instead, there was only distance and silence, which in some ways hurt even more. At John Wayne's funeral, Tony stayed away from the cameras and public attention. Dressed in black and standing near the back of the service, she spoke to almost no one outside the family. But according to several people who attended, she approached her father's casket privately and placed inside it a faded black and white photograph of the two of them riding horses together during the filming of The Quiet Man. It was a deeply personal goodbye. While the public mourned the death of John Wayne, the legend, Tony mourned the father she remembered before fame changed everything around him. In the decades that followed, Tony remained almost entirely absent from public life. Her name rarely appeared during major tributes or documentaries about the Wayne family. Whenever reporters requested interviews, she quietly declined. Unlike others connected to the Wayne legacy, Tony seemed determined to preserve one thing the public could never fully touch: her privacy. As the Wayne family brand expanded into merchandise, books, and museum exhibits, Tony Wayne remained mostly absent from the spotlight, but she never disappeared from the family itself. She was there for weddings, birthdays, and quiet reunions, remembered by relatives as warm, gentle, and deeply private. To her children, John Wayne was never the Duke. He was simply my dad, a hard-working man who often came home exhausted from chasing a life larger than himself. In the story of the Wayne family, Tony was never the loudest voice or the public face of the legacy. She was something quieter and perhaps more real. While others defended the myth, Tony held on to the personal memories no audience ever saw. And maybe that says more about fame than anything else, because behind every Hollywood legend is a family carrying different versions of the same person. To the world, John Wayne was a towering American icon, but to his children, he was also a father, a stranger, a protector, and sometimes a man difficult to fully know. And the Wayne family is only one story among many hidden behind Hollywood's golden age. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Legacy Uncovered for more untold stories behind the world's biggest legends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.